Hi everyone, this is Cloud Dragon FinOps podcast, episode number 4, in which I'm going to talk about application development. Typically I would talk about FinOps and cost savings, but today I want to talk about application development because the money that we pay to AWS are nothing compared to the money we pay for developer salary. I asked Google Bard to calculate an abstract total cost of ownership of an application that is developed for 5 years and contains a team of 5 people, and I get this incredible number of $2.7 million. And AWS costs here, or any other cloud infrastructure costs here, are like nothing. So there are companies that have a different ratio of infrastructure cost to developer cost. Sometimes it's 1-2%, sometimes it's 5-10%. But in general, the developer salary is the biggest cost here. And it's not just the biggest cost. The developers themselves are the biggest impactors on the overall efficiency of your application development. Developers can be really inefficient in terms of development. You could hire a person, you could pay him huge salary, but only thing this developer is going to do is just to solve the problems that he created himself. He creates some bicycles, bad architectures, and then tries to write code around that or refactor that. So a lot of work that developers does is actually self-created works. He creates tasks for himself, and he creates problems for himself, and he resolves that. It's also very hard to find a good developer. One reason is it's a long process for onboarding a developer. You have to make a lot of interviews. You have to find a person who will conduct interviews, and so on and so on. And all the good developers are already working in the company, so you're dealing with people who are actively searching for a job, and typically they don't have that much expertise, and they want a lot of money for their work. And it's not just one developer. One developer kind of doesn't work alone. You have to hire a team, and if you have developers, you have to have QA, DevOps, FinOps, TPM, Scrum Manager, Product Owner, and a manager who will manage all of that. So, it's very hard to hire just few people because it's usually a team who is working, and the cost for one developer kind of multiplies by all those people that are also engaged in software development. And the most problematic part related to development is that you can't validate their work. It's very hard to identify if they're doing the good work or they're doing a bad work, because they always say, oh, it's in progress, I'm working on this. Or they show, for example, they show you some UI, it's kind of working, it's kind of have features you need, but you don't know how it works underneath. Maybe it's just a piece of garbage. You have to have another developer to validate their work, and so on and so on. So it's very subjective, all this development, tech debt, architecture. Every developer that comes to a new project always tells, this is a garbage architecture, we need to rewrite it. So it's very subjective. And that's where I think FinOps is very important, because FinOps is a good metrics for inefficient developers. In my experience, when a team has its costs under control and it addresses cost increases in time, they also do the rest of the stuff very good. They meet the deadlines, they have a good security, they don't have problems with architecture, they know what they're doing, they making infrastructure simple and efficient. But if I see a team who is not good with their AWS costs, who is wasting money or throws hardware at the problem frequently, and who don't address the cost increases in time, those people are usually also bad at meeting deadlines. They're also bad at maintaining security. They're usually also bad at making infrastructure simple, and so on and so on. So it's kind of I don't know why, but that's what I observed in terms of the clustering of teams. I very rarely see the situation when team does everything good and suddenly they are just very inefficient in AWS. It's very rare. What typically happens is that people who are bad in one dimension are also bad in other dimensions. I don't know why it works like that. At least it's my experience. But I mean, it kind of makes sense when you think about it. If developer is if he is not doing things rationally or thinks rationally, this irrational thinking process or biased thinking process, well, it will propagate in different areas of his work. But the good thing about FinOps is that you could quantify that. Like if it's very hard to quantify bad architecture, or it's very hard to detect when bad architecture emerges, but it's very simple to detect cost increase. So this FinOps is a very powerful tool for identifying problems in development. So if you have some team and it has like costs going out of control, it's real signs that something is not going well with the development here. Maybe its solution has bad architecture, maybe there are some other problems, maybe they're hurrying with their deadline, they want to finish everything fast, they throw hardware at the problem. It's the cost increases are usually the sign of a deeper problem. However, the only exception is when there is a cost increase and you provide the feedback, they roll back stuff pretty quickly. Then it's kind of normal. People may not expected something, you provided them with the feedback and they will not make this issue again. But if this pattern persists, if you see that the team is constantly not good on all cost-saving dimensions, well, something is wrong with them. And I'm not a fan of telling them, oh, you're doing your job badly, we need to find someone else. I think that there is kind of 90% of people who you could train to perform the task you want to perform. It's just there is no professional training for software developers today. And at least that's what I observed in the company I was. Probably in Google, Instagram, or Twitter, there's some professional training of developers. They're doing that great. But in the companies I was, in most of the companies I was, there was real no professional training for senior or lead developers or even middle developers, because I don't know, but people expect for those group of people to educate themselves. And you might be tempted to say, why should I waste money on educating those people? I want to hire just senior developers. They should already be professional, be able to do what I want, because why I'm hiring them anyway. But that's not the reality. The reality is that if you hire a person, you hire him based on the job description, and you have 4 points there. You really cannot find a person who would be good in SQL, would be good at AWS, be good at something else, and know your industry. It's kind of impossible. So you you will always hire a person who is not a good fit for you. You have to train your employees to be a good fit, because it's not possible to find a person who will do the work for you right off the bat. It's very, very rare. And as Henry Ford said, the only thing worse than training your employees and having them leave is not training them and having them stay. If you're afraid that you will train those senior or lead developers and they will leave, well, they could just stay and continue to create inefficient architectures, pollute your AWS accounts, and so on. So you want to educate your developers, and you don't have to actually invest in that. You could watch episode 3 of my podcast, see how much, what you could save pretty fast on AWS right now. Save those money and invest them in educational process. And for me, this educational process is kind of it kind of consists of 3 stages. First one is non-technical. People who work in your company should know how it works. They should know what is your business, what are your partners, what are the company products. They should see clients in their face. They should know their clients. I know people who were working like for 5 years and never saw a client in their life. Like, they working on the application, the developers working on the application for 5 years, and he never saw a client, and he doesn't know even how the client looks, like what category of people are his clients. It's just crazy. How could he make a good, adequate decision if he doesn't know his client? So all these things that are related to the business, employees should know, because then they could make an adequate decision. For example, if current priority of organization is to build everything fast, you could just throw hardware as a problem, create a lot of AWS resources, and try to get another round of investment, for example. Or vice versa, if the company is well established, you want to follow the processes, you want to be very lean in your infrastructure, and so on. So this company's vision is very important for this onboarding process. And I mean, people typically hire a developer, spend like two days onboarding him, and then they say, oh, this is your team, this is your manager, this is your Slack, this is your email, try to figure out what your project is about, try to get up to speed with the development, and start developing some Jiras. But the reality is that you probably want to spend at least 2 weeks telling this person about the company, what you are doing, what are the products, what are the people in the company, what they're doing. Maybe you don't have to do it personally. You could just record a lot of videos for every product. Teams could share their products, their vision. I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that you don't have to invest that much time on that. You just have to record a video, and then when new person comes, he will watch everything about your company. He would know what you're making, whom to contact, who is most important here, and so on and so on. After this is done, then there is a professional training, which based on groups. For example, for developers, there will be one training. For QA, there's going to be another training. And you want just take the most important areas of the software development for your company and make everyone go through the training. It doesn't matter if they already know the technology. It doesn't matter if they're senior lead developers or they are CTOs. Doesn't matter. They have to go through the training simply because they should know what everyone else knows. Because the biggest problem in communication of software between developers is that we have different assumptions. So if we're talking about SQL, for example, one developer has one knowledge of SQL, another one has a bad experience with SQL, another one is SQL guru, another one just hates SQL. And when we try to talk, there is incredible miscommunication between us because we are coming like from a different planets. But if everyone goes through the same training, even though they get zero knowledge from the training itself, it doesn't matter. They know that everyone else watched the training, so they could use the training as a communication means. For example, they know that everyone knows how SQL works. They could just talk on a higher, have the conversation on a higher level, rather than explaining everyone how SQL works, and then another person says, no, this is not how it works, and then another person tells this is not how it works. So a lot of these miscommunications and conflicts are easily resolved if you have the same training applied to all people. Plus, I don't believe that everyone knows everything about all technologies. There is always a gap that these trainings will fill in. Somebody knows SQL well, but he's not aware of NoSQL, and vice versa. Same goes for AWS. So there is always something new to learn for every person if you have a lot of training sessions for a lot of areas. And this is basically enough for having a really efficient development process. If you have this training, people pretty much know each other. During the sessions, you don't make a session like there is one speaker and 100 developers. You make development or the training in groups. You have a group of 10 people, 20 people. They know each other. They talk with each other. They resolve all these inconsistencies in their assumptions during this training process, rather than having this process going during the work. So it's definitely not a wasted time. And once you do that, you want to repeat that for everyone new who is coming to the company. There is always a rotation of people, so this training is going to be kind of an ongoing process. You don't want to put the same person to the same training twice, but you definitely want to put one person through all the trainings you have in the company over a certain period, 1 or 2 years, for example. This is way enough to, as I said, it's way enough to run an efficient development process. If you want, you could also make some individual trainings. If you see there are some people who want to do some specific things, for example, you see some person is good at FinOps, you could put him into the FinOps training. Or you could see there is some person who is good at financing. You could push him into the finance training. And the reason for this training not only to get people be more effective at their work, but also to stay in the company for longer. Like if you have a continuous educational process for developers, like 1 year, 2 years, 3 year, 4 year, it's a continuous education. People who will get educated at work, they would not want to leave. Why leaving the company which feeds them with new knowledge, with new technologies, with new standards? They will feel like they're growing in terms of software development. They will produce much better results in terms of application development, and they will tend to stay in the company for much longer because, they're growing. They didn't know something, now they know something. They would want to stay in the company to get the benefit of those high quality educational sessions. And if you just compare two scenarios for this, if you don't care about your developers, you don't educate them, you get high rotation rate. Even in the salary here is not important. you could raise the salary. It really affects not that much. Like there is a baseline for the salary for a certain position, but raising that higher doesn't bring you a better person. You just have access to more people, but you still have to go through the interview process and choose the best ones. And if you choose the wrong person, well, you will get really bad results. But if you have one developer who you had in the company, he was not that great, but you educate him, his effectiveness grows, he feels that he got something from this company, he will stay, he will know all the issues that he created himself while working in the company. Like he got the training, he understood that he made a mistake in the past, he just goes and fixes that. Or for example, these developers precisely knows which servers are used and which servers are unused on AWS. So if you ask him to clean that up, he could just go and clean that up. But if you have developers who are just coming to the project that was already started, well, they don't know what the project is about, they don't know how it started, they don't like the architecture, they don't know which servers are used and which servers are not used, and so on and so on. So this rotation of people on the project makes the whole development process incredibly ineffective. So you definitely want to have some training on the development topics. And on this podcast, I would make a series of trainings, general training for software development, not related to specific technology, but rather a general approach for software development that makes it that is profitable for company and is profitable for people who are doing development, and is profitable for people who are using the software. You know, it's very hard to explain. It's a very generic course that's going to be, but I will try to make it as specific as possible. We will go through the whole software development lifetime. We're going to see the typical issues that arise in software development, and we will see simple solutions to the problems that we face. So starting from episode 5 of the Cloud Dragon podcast, we're going to do some more dev presentations. If you're still here till the end of this episode, I'm really glad you made it to here. See you in the future ones. Bye.